Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Good afternoon, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Chetashri, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll exactly start at once.
Okay.
Let me check. Yeah.
Yeah. It's working fine.
Yeah. So आता है YouTube पर Hello, good afternoon, Gaurav sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah.
One second. Yeah. On behalf of Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So, on behalf of Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies, we welcome you for the Impact Lecture Series. And I think we can begin in the next 1 minute. I'll ask Chetashri to start, and then I'll make you the host, and we can begin the program.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, give me 5 minutes.
Yes.
Chetashri, can we begin?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, one and all. I am Chetashri Sonone from MBA 1 of Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies and
One
Research.
second. Chetashri, 1 second. Wait. I'm making you the host so that you can start.
Okay. Can I start, ma'am?
Wait a minute. Yes, Chetashri, you can begin.
Good morning, good afternoon, one and all. I am Chetashri Sonone from MBA 1 of Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies and Research. We are proud to welcome our guest speaker, our director, and all the faculty members along with students to the impact lectures organized by Entrepreneurship Development Startup and Innovation Cell. Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies and Research Pune has developed mechanism for entrepreneurship development and self-employment through this cell. The EDSI cell will enable, facilitate, and support the students for the institute from ideation to startup through constant guidance and mentoring. The purpose of this policy is to promote entrepreneurship and make students explore various opportunities in the field of startup and innovation. This policy will help the EDSI cell to act as a platform to motivate, guide, and support students in their entrepreneurial ventures. We are pleased to announce that our institute, that is Neville Vadia Institute of Management Studies, has been selected to conduct the impact lectures for the month of June and July. The objective of the impact lectures in selected institutions like us is not only to create a campus innovation and startup ecosystem, but also in helping in establishing connections with enablers at national and regional level. This impact lecture series will motivate students, research scholars, and faculty to pursue innovation and startup during their academic curriculum. Now, I would like to request our Honorable Director, Dr. Anand Dadas sir, to express his views.
Give me a minute. Let me just check. Well, let me check. He'll join us in some time. Chetashri, you please continue.
Okay. So speaking about our today's guest, Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi. Sir is a computer science engineer and he has completed his MBA from IIM Lucknow in 2013. He is a founder of Emertech Innovations. Emertech has a mission to build solutions through breakthrough technologies which will positively impact human lives. Sir is designated as Future Leader 2018 cohort by British Council and presented his work and idea at UK Parliament and University of Cambridge. He is one of the 4 Indians to be selected in it. He holds first prize in Indo-Swiss competition of science and entrepreneurs. He has written a book, Sakhariche Swatantra, and has been felicitated by Honorable Shri Purushottam Rupala, Minister of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy Government of India. He is also a social activist and independent researcher in subjects of sociology, history, and technology, with 2 papers published in international journals. He has edited and published books. He is a public speaker, educator, and content creator. Now, I would like to request honorable guest, Mr. Gaurav Somvanshi sir, to take over and give us some of his insightful thoughts about the topic.
Sir, make you the host.
I'm sorry, my laptop got auto restart. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sorry for that. The laptop kind of malfunctioned. Sorry, I missed the last 3 minutes.
Sir, I would like to request you to take over and give us some of insightful thoughts about the topic.
First and foremost, thank you to ma'am and also indirectly to Rajesh sir for getting us connected for this. It's especially the topic regarding what we are discussing right now. I'm thankful for the topic because rather than just focusing, usually I only focus upon, let's say, blockchain or use cases, but that doesn't tell the background story of it. That how is it that it actually comes into picture? And how is it that even, let's say, a simple thing like a supply chain platform, for example, it's very easy to say, but what does it mean on field to actually go ahead and conduct the work that goes into it? All of these things usually get skipped. So uh, the focus of this session, it's just a sharing session for me. It's not a lecture of any kind. Is to talk about my experiences using example of my own. And when I say an example, it's not even as if that, we have figured out what is the ideal startup way or we have become an unicorn. Absolutely not. We are far from it. We are just that is what we keep ourselves as the guiding light, that this is where we want to be. And while doing that, there are so many unexpected changes, pivots, as we fancily used to call, into the startup world that we have to make. So that is the part of the story which I want to share, which is the entire startup thing. So while doing that, I want to again focus primarily upon more of it could be an interactive session. First, I'll talk about my experiences, my examples. I have an experience of one NGO, one star and two startups, and some corporate experience mixed into that as well. So that's there. Now, the way that I would love to begin is before the slides come into the picture. The slides come into the picture very late in my story. So it actually begins, I'll briefly talk about myself. So I did my engineering. First of all, hi, I'm Gaurav Somvanshi. Currently the CEO and co-founder of Immertech Innovations, a startup incubated at IIT Bombay. And the whole journey begins in engineering, because some of my engineering classmates are also now my co-founders. I completed it in 2011 in computer science, in fact. But then it's not as if that we were pretty much good at it, or we were pretty expert at it or anything. So 2000, after 2011, immediately I got admission into IIM Lucknow as a fresher to do the MBA. Those were also pretty, you could say, formative years, because I got in as a fresher, and then nearly 90% of the people over there had work experience already. So you always feel that maybe there are so many aspects of the job world, as you could say, that we simply don't know about. But I think that those are the kind of anxieties that come up with no matter what your domain is in any case. So but I decided made a decision over there, that after while I'm doing my MBA, the entire focus was on placements. What can we do for, let us say, the highest package, which whether we are going into marketing vertical, finance vertical, and everything. So within the second year itself, I made a conscious decision that of course I'm going to appear for the placements, but I'll try to use the advantage of years that I have on my back, because many others were having an average experience of 4 to sometimes even 12, 13 years. So maybe instead of directly jumping into the corporate world, I could take some time off from the corporate world, but let us say try to begin an institution building on my own, because that time I had an idea in mind, which was basically, can we democratize popular science education, especially the part of the syllabus which is not covered into the syllabus part. So that was the part which we were trying to focus back then. I was trying to focus back then. So during the IIM, I read quite a lot regarding how different people have been facing challenges into the problem statement, which is science education. And my favorite scientist who was working on that part was Carl Sagan. So I made an NGO. During the placement, I got a job offer from Wolf Hollins in Dubai to work for marketing. I did not go for it. Instead, I made just an NGO by the name of Saganites Science Education Association. And that is how it primarily began. The whole purpose over there was to see, can I create content modules on my own and then deliver them to underprivileged sections in such a manner that it can go on. At that time, being an NGO, it was not a for-profit model, of course. It got some traction for around a year and a half when I was the sole person running the show. And while I was doing that, then some of my classmates from IIM, they felt that we could actually, they were also parallelly thinking on similar lines, that an education ERP solution could also be devised. And that time, the four IIM classmates, they were working in prestigious companies like PwC, Amazon, Flipkart, and so on. And then all of us just once sat together and they decided to begin a startup. So the first startup that began and did not take off as well as we would have liked it to was in the education domain. So the way that we began was, we had all the coding experience within the team among the five of us. There were two others who were very, very pretty good at it. So there was in-house coding. We already had some connects with schools who could act as potential first clients to begin our work. And at the same time, we also had access to some of the other competitions at that time, and edutech was a big boom. So now, yes, this is an important thing that I've learned, the booms which happen. So back then it was an edutech boom. Right now it's an agri-tech boom. There will be AI booms, blockchain booms, and so on. So typically what happens when a boom is, a lot of many investors are initially interested and they will fund anyone. But after 2 or 3 years, people realize that the useful use cases who actually make the cut are quite few, and then suddenly the investment drops. But while it is dropping, it creates a negative panic, and then even the good cases are hit. So these cycles have both pros and cons regarding whether how much they are actually beneficial for a business and so on, right? Now, while all of that is happening, what we did, and we, in retrospect, I realized we should not have done, was we built the entire content modules, ERP solution modules in isolation from the client, which basically means that we did not have any deeper market study, market surveys. That was the portion which was missing. Things were happening mostly based on primary research and our own assumptions regarding what it is that a school ERP solution with some content delivery would entail. So it was a bit simplistic understanding, and we felt that this is all that we need to do. We will just have some traction. The moment we have traction, then we will have fancy Excel sheets in which you can show projections, your break-even points, and you will simply stretch your formulas, and then you will show great profits, and the investor will be happy, and then you will get the funding and the a unicorn status. That is a very simplistic and naive understanding that we also had. We tried to, of course, deal with many complexities and nuances within it, but frankly speaking, that was about it, because that was the whole gist of the entire you could say mission back then. But after a year, when we started hitting the schools, when we started reaching out to them to use our software to test it, the first thing that we immediately realized was that everyone is asking for customizations, and it was not unfair customizations. These were just customizations which were specific to the particular school. Now, the time it was taking for us to onboard a school, provide them with an entire ERP platform, right from attendance management till entire student lifecycle management, along with some added content to it, which was either supporting their syllabus or simply adding to the syllabus and not part of the original one. While doing that, we realized the customizations were the one which were draining us of our energy. So what we did was we built a product, and then we were trying to give services. And that's always a critical question for a startup, whether you're a product company or you're a service company. So we began as a product company. Yeah, because we built a product, and then the customizations were so huge that became almost like a services company. Now, the second part, even if your module is getting used, like more than 20,000 students were on board on the platform, quite a few schools were there. Now, even if it is getting used, how do you ensure that it is getting used enough to a degree that it will pay you, give you enough revenues sizably for your daily operations, for scale up costs, or even simple basic cash flows? That is another question altogether. Just because someone is using something doesn't mean that they will be willing to pay whatever amount it is that you need. Because without ERP solution, also schools have been running since quite a few years, so they can manage that without that also. So that was another part of the market survey, which was, I could say, was entirely missing from the entire platform. And then what happens after a couple of years? Frustrations start rising up within the co-founders. We get keep getting bombarded with job offers, and at the same time, you could see that your colleagues are scaling up ahead very fast. Let's say consultant, senior consultant, assistant manager, manager, right up till director, and so on. So that kind of takes a heavy toll on your mind. And of course, it's about the finances also, because you are, of course, in investing your own money. If you're bootstrapping, if there is no angel seeding, for example. And that is also kind of something which happened. And then I decided to take a back step. And the thing which was avoiding since 2013, since I passed out from IIM, I decided to kind of use it for more deeper learning, and of course, frankly, for the salary aspect also, because I was going through some personal issues where I needed the money. And but I decided that even though I might be working in a corporate setting, I will always have a problem solving approach, because who knows, maybe because of a problem solving approach in which you're identifying, in which you're not having a task based approach that this is what you're supposed to do. So you are just doing that much in that amount of time and having the simple appraisal cycles, but more about you use the opportunity of working with a corporate to get acquainted with different domains, whichever you're working in. Try to understand it wholly, with or without the fact that it's you're part of the job or not. That's secondary. And then try to create some value out of it. So, uh, coincidentally, back then, through my co-founder itself, Manish Sharma, I got acquainted with the client in Chhattisgarh, and that's how the blockchain story will begin. So it's basically NGO, then a startup which didn't work well, then there was a corporate gap, and then again the startup. But during the corporate stint itself is where blockchain became close to me. It came to my life, and that is the story that I'll share with the slides in a minute. So in December 2016, this idea came that Mr. Alex Paul Menon, a very proactive and enthusiastic IS officer who was back then Joint Secretary of the IT department, he wanted to build a special team to ensure that the DBT, digital benefit transfers, are happening in a seamless and transparent manner without any problems to the citizens. And for that team to come into effect, we were basically asked to uh, become a part. So PwC became our employer, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and we became consultants over there. And in January 2016, that the 2017, that is when the corporate job kind of began. So I'll just share my slides from that point onwards because I want to talk more about the approach that I took. Because blockchain, the technology in which a startup is founded since the past 3 years, was not a part of our deliverable. It was not a part of the job. It just came about as a completely, you could say, independent exercise. So I'll just share my slides now. Just a second. Can you see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this was my job basically. This is what I was supposed to be doing. There were 26 departments overall in which DBT schemes. What is a DBT scheme? Any scheme in which government is interacting with the citizens in a direct manner. In a direct manner, the government interacts with citizens, of course, but I am talking about direct benefits, whether it is in cash, like scholarship schemes, pension schemes, and so on, or Janani Suraksha scheme for maternal benefits, or it could be in kind, for example, ration or your Ujjwala scheme for LPG and so on. Now, most of the schemes back then were happening on paper mode. That is where most of the leakages were happening. And then we needed to find out to ensure how can we make it digital. So there was already a protocol in place given by the government of India regarding what should be followed in order to make it digital. But then we got deeper into the problem. Our DBT team started studying what exactly are the pain points going beyond the scope of work. So we found some inefficiencies within the entire system of public service delivery. And the top three major reasons that I will talk about. We don't need to go through the entire things. I want to stick more about the point. The point over here was we identified that the citizens have to do a lot of hassle to get even a simple scheme delivered to them, and there are also leakages within the system. Primarily, the top three reasons was there was no digitization of records, there was no digitalization of processes, and the information which was collected by one department was not getting shared by other departments. Right now, while all of this is happening, uh, just to give you a case study, this is usually what happened that a person who has informed the government about their pregnancy has to apply in multiple geographical places at different departments to get the deserved benefits, and it simply becomes impossible, let's say in the third trimester and so on. So the entire problem statement boiled down to why aren't the different departments sharing data with each other? And then the common buzzword at that time was that there is no trust, and that is what happens. It's not just a problem with Chhattisgarh or any other state of India, or even just a developing country's problem. It's a kind of a global thing in which different departments actually don't interact with other departments. That is why the citizen is forced to visit multiple places for a single thing. APJ Abdul Kalam used to call it a next window approach. That you don't matter which window you go to get services, they will say that go to next window, and so on. But APJ Abdul Kalam in the same book also said that we should have a one window approach, that no matter in which window the citizen is arriving, you should be able to give them the benefits and delivery. But how will it happen? It will happen if the backend is connected with each other. But if the backend is connected with each other, then there are many problems of privacy, of data breaches, of security. For example, a person sitting in the labor department can see, for example, what is your health data if there is just single database managing everything. A person sitting in, let us say, a revenue department can see records regarding your religion, caste, and so on. So that is the official reason they give. But at the same time, just out of random reading, because I just love to read, and I was just randomly scrolling Wikipedia regarding what is this new word which is appearing in newspapers, which was Bitcoin. So I was reading on Wikipedia about what Bitcoin is, and then blockchain came into the picture, and Mr. Alex Paul Menon sir had also mentioned it once, and then just kind of random reading in my free time during weekends what blockchain works, how it is. Now in 2017, I was reading about technology in computer science, but I had already left computer science behind in 2011. So it was not as if I was getting any much advantage of the graduation at all. It was almost like beginning things from scratch, because after the MBA, my roots with the graduation part were pretty eroded, and it was not even as if my graduation was strong in the first place. So that's another thing. But it was very interesting to figure out that technology is now claiming to give trust, because no technology actually did that until now. It was more about information sharing, some security protocols, and so on. But now this was claiming to bypass authorities. For example, let us say we don't agree with the philosophy of Bitcoin, but what is it actually trying to do? It is actually trying to bypass all the trust givers: banks, borders, governments, Federal Reserves, RBI, central banks, central issuance, and so on. Now, these people actually provide some service. If some technology is claiming that all those services could be automated in a way, or could be democratized rather in a way, then how powerful the technology could really be. So that is how the thing began. And then I was just reading that whether any country is using blockchain for other purposes. And then I just happened to read what Estonia was doing. Now, Estonia is a small country, originally a part of the Soviet Union, USSR. And when it all fell apart in the 1990s, it didn't get any resources. Just a small country, completely bankrupt. And they decided that back then they're going to focus their entire manpower into the digital age. So even today, they are at a stage when Barack Obama has declared that the most digitally advanced country in the world is Estonia. It's none of the hi-fi European countries or UK or US. It's actually Estonia, because they went very aggressive on the computer science part and digitization part, and ensuring that service delivery is much more seamless among their citizens. So they were trying to do some things on blockchain for their own purpose for e-governance. So then the idea also came about to be that how can we also use blockchain to see whether the problems of trust, can we ensure that secrecy of some critical citizen details be maintained, while at the same time ensuring that the service delivery is also automated. And for that, can we conduct some pilots? Now these were the new challenges. How do we convince existing industry leaders and all? And I was working primarily with bureaucrats who are in general not so open for experimentation with the new technology. And at the same time, it was not as if in 2017 there was a lot of support back then for this. So this is where the hustle kind of begins. The another Indian word for this is jugaad. I decided to use LinkedIn. Instead of having the approach of now I'm going to sit and learn and this entire blockchain thing on my own and developed it entirely on my own, which is the mistake we had already committed into the first startup. It was more about creating a network and team of relevant people who also have the same ideology, and they are all over the world. It is just a matter of finding them. So how do you find them? Is the way we call it, let's say, a brute force attack. You try to find as many, you try to spam as many, and then let's keep your finger crossed that you actually hit them, hit the right people. So that is when I started using LinkedIn. Back until then, I was not using LinkedIn at all, because I was having an NGO and a startup, and more of on so-called on-ground approaches. But back then in 2017, until 2017, I had hardly 500, 600 connections, and all of them were only from the MBA class. But in 2017, I started spamming all the people I could find all over the world on LinkedIn who were working on blockchain. And then, for example, this is one of the spam messages. Not a spam because I was customizing those messages according to them. Today, the list is my list is almost 19,000 people, nearly everyone in the blockchain domain only. So, for example, Dr. Jane Thompson, I noticed that she was writing a lot on blockchain for social impact. So you can see that on 6 September 2017, I dropped her a message that I would like to connect with you and all. So then we started interacting with video calls. Jane at that time was a CEO and founder of a multimillionaire company working in real estate consultancy in Australia. But then she was also just like me, getting very much immersed into blockchain. Today, she is a full-time blockchain expert and even an author. But back then, she said that these are just lovely ideas, what I was trying to do. And she said that she would love to come and help me out in presenting it to the bureaucracy, to the officials, so that the case is put forth more strongly. I said that, Jane, if you come from Australia to Chhattisgarh in Raipur, I can't even pay for your cab expenses because this is out of my scope of work primarily. She said, of course, no, she'll come on her own. So within the next 2 weeks, she actually flew from Australia to Raipur. That's where we are sitting at the center. You could see just besides Jane and besides me, that's Mr. Alex Paul Menon, sir. And that actually gave a lot of impetus that yes, we can actually start because everyone was impressed by her and that kick-started a lot of things. Similarly, I had dropped messages to Professor Edgar Whitley from London School of Economics saying that if I get some of your help, then maybe we could have some drafts prepared for policy level documents in which technology, especially something like blockchain, could also have a way to get open into. And then just through emails, Professor Edgar Whitley helped me very much extensively. So extensively that in fact, when all of this was successful, I was invited to London for another award. I just dropped him a message that can we meet for a coffee? He said, come over to London School of Economics and conduct a workshop. So that's where we also met. At this point in time, we had identified quite a lot of problem statements that yes, we can do blockchain in land records, in health records, in DBT, of course, which was the primary purpose, and so on. That can we automate service delivery by linking different government databases with each other, at least on a pilot level. But then how do you actually invite the developers and the coding solutions? So the idea came that let us conduct an hackathon. And then the world's first, India's first hackathon, sponsored by a state government, did not happen in Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, UP, or any other place. It actually happened in Chhattisgarh because that is where we took the initiative, convinced the bureaucracy, the companies, and everyone. And for that, especially, we started reaching out to. So, this is a message I dropped to Genevieve Livell. She was the winner of the London Blockchain Hackathon. She had won close to, I think, $1 million cash prize back then. So I just requested her that if Genevieve, if you're an online jury, that will actually give us a lot more credibility. But she said, why an online jury? I'll come jury. I'll come directly from London to over to Raipur for this hackathon itself. So that's Genevieve in Raipur. And through the hackathon, we got participation of more than 130 startups. And the problem statements were quite varied. So we also got a lot of help from work as well while this was happening. Uh, Sorry, I think there's someone on unmute. Yeah.
Kindly mute your all the participants. Malik,
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
So when we wanted to, for example, talk about land records, and I'll talk about how we did land records on blockchain. I just figured out who has done land records in the world. So Larry Christopher Bates has actually conducted land records on blockchain in Ghana. So I said, if you work with me, I can't pay you, and there is no incentive rather because this is not even my scope of work, but we can do something really fantastic, given that what you've done in Ghana. we can have an immutable records for different data mutations, land mutations which happen. And then Larry became such a close friend that over the course of even till now, we have regular interactions. And then if you talk with Larry, he will tell you all the Chhattisgarhi terms for he's very fluent in using the words like Patwari, Khasra, Basra, Tehsildar, all the words connected with land records. And that is how we did it. In fact, that project, Chhattisgarh project, along with the one in Ghana, got his startup named as the 50 most genius companies in the Forbes list, and that's the same list which featured Amazon, Disney, Pixar, and others. And now he's also doing great in his own in a different venture, but related with blockchain, but not with land records. But that is how it actually began. Now the thing was, can we actually convert all of these pilots that you've done and have a statewide project sanctioned? For that, we again started reaching out Alex Paul Menon sir primarily for different funding agencies that can the state be supported for it. So in this picture, Mr. John Blumquist, you can see him. He's the director of the World Bank. At back then he was. So and then World Bank decided to fund this project. That yes, the this could be really something meaningful, and that is the project that I was kind of a part of just before I was heading towards. I just want to, yeah, this is the part. This is the hackathon statements, the 4 problem statements that I just spoke about. I'll get back to the slides again. Now, these were the use cases which actually got a lot of solutions and the prize money declared by the government. And we decided to write all of our experiences into a thought paper, co-authored by Mr. Alex Paul Menon sir, me, and Manish and the DBT team. Now, the whole purpose behind doing this was to ensure that there is more adoption of the technology while this is happening. And being the first ever blockchain pilots in India, that kind of led to a lot of recognition also. But while that recognition is happening, again, I'll go back to the startup part. The whole point of being a part of a startup was to have a problem-solving approach and seeing what could be done. One of the mistakes we had done in the earlier startup was assuming a solution and then figuring out where could the problem lie and then go ahead. Now, blockchain as a technology is fundamentally something which has more solutions than it has problems to address, frankly. In that case, how is it that I should be approaching? Should I just quit my job right now and begin a blockchain startup because the blockchain boom was also happening? Or I should have the reverse of what I had done in my earlier startup. So what I was doing during all of these 3 years was I was conducting blockchain workshops everywhere that I could go to, whether I was invited to some slums or whether I was invited by the IRS officers, or I even taught in US, in UK, and then in Switzerland, everywhere that I could go to, different colleges, mostly about industry people, because I realized that if the domain experts understand what this technology does, the domain experts are the only people who should be telling that yes, this technology will work over here or it will not work over here. It is not the job of the developer or the computer people or the technical expert to tell how it will work. That is something that should be mutually developed in tandem with the client. So while I was already a part of this, I was conducting workshops in my free time wherever I could go to. And during when I was going to colleges, I was just getting in touch with the bright students of the workshops because I realized that I would be needing a team if at all a problem and solution comes ahead. And one of those workshops, one of those workshops was at Santa Cruz, at a slum over here, in which I just came to talk about the experiences. And some farmers from Nashik were present over there. Nashik is, as you know, hardly 4 or 5 hours drive from Mumbai. So I came from Raipur to Mumbai. And one of the contacts or representatives of their friend of the representative was Mr. Abasaheb Kale. He was also invited as a chief guest to at the event. He said that you should definitely come and visit Sahyadri Farms, which is India's largest farmer group company, and Nashik, and you should see what is happening. So that is how I actually traveled with him. I was on a leave from office, so he took me in his own car to Nashik, and that's when I saw what Sahyadri Farms really is. And over there, I again conducted another workshop for primarily Mr. Vilas Shinde sir and other farmer leaders. And it was they who told us that wait, if you use blockchain for so and so purpose, maybe there is a use case. Now, prior to this, I was already talking with industry experts. There were already many solutions in place, but they were not satisfactory enough that I could go all in. So that was one thing. But over here, I felt I could go all in. Now, all of this was happening when, yeah, sorry, I kind of went slightly ahead. We'll briefly talk about an example regarding how land records happened, what it takes to ensure it happen. Now, this was not a part of the job. This was not a part of DBT. This is just something we did with the permission, that we did a on-ground study of what is the current process, that today land records mutations, buying and selling is happening through so and so processes, and it has so and so problems. These are the different suggestions that we gave to them, that if you just digitalize some of the processes and digitize some documents, we can solve. And if you add blockchain to it in a, at least in a pilot, then we could have even a much more faster and more competing structure. So this is how the problem solving approach we actually went ahead with. Yeah. So before Mr. Vilash in this, sir, I'll just briefly talk about the pilots got me a lot of recognition. Uh, this is one of the letters from the government of India certifying, appreciating and acknowledging the blockchain pilots. Some pictures of the workshops that I was already conducting back then. On the left hand side, I'm teaching the IRS officers of the NCR government because they were forming a crypto bill. On the right hand side, I'm teaching at Mississippi Coding Academy in US. I was also invited to give presentations in UK Parliament. British Council nominated me as a Future Leader Fellowship program. I also spent an entire day at the UK Prime Minister's residence, and the British Council made a small 4-minute mini documentary of the work that I had done during the job days. Some UK ministers just tweeting about it. Yeah, this happened much later when the finance minister had invited for a discussion. But I'll get to all of this again. This is another thing we did as a Dalai Lama fellowship. We built a blockchain platform for the Dalai Lama also. Today, Dalai Lama publicly and legally owns Bitcoins. So all of this was happening in parallel, but at the same time, the full attention was where the problem solving approach could take place. And when I met Mr. Vilas Shinde sir, Sayadri Farms, along with me, my co-founders were also there, Manish, Ganesh, Aditya, and we realized that yes, this is a very strong use case. We can actually begin from here. Mandar was there. That is when I decided, I made a very hard decision, that at the peak of, you could say, my corporate career, in which I was getting consecutively rated for the top rank and appraisals, and also a couple of promotions within a span of less than 3 years, I decided that now is the right time to quit, because if I don't explore this new aspect of technology and startup right now, I might not be able to do it later. So I put up my papers, I resigned from PwC. And after the notice period was served, we made Emertech Innovations, Emertech because emerging technologies. And AgroTrust is the name we had collectively decided and figured out. Currently, this is just a team, our advisors and mentors. You could also see Mr. Vilas Shinde sir over there. There are other team members also, but these are the original ones from whom we began with. So what was the idea and solution over there? The idea and solution over there, just a snapshot of the startup journey for the past couple of years. 2 months ago, Cisco did a survey of 844 agrotech startups, which lasted for 16 months of audit on ground work. And we got the best technology prize. We also got first prize in Dubai among 200 startups for among 12 countries. So this is the current status. But then how it actually came about to the place? There was a problem and there was a solution. Did I know the problem? Of course not. My parents are doctors. I had absolutely no idea about the agriculture part, and that is why I did not assume that I have any say in it. So me, my co-founders and my team, we just relied upon the inputs that are coming from the farmer groups. So the thing was, the problem statement was basically that the small land holding farmers, as you can see in front of you, are exploited on a daily basis because of small land holding. That is the first and foremost primary reason. Because if you're a small land holding farmer, you will be exploited by middlemen. No, there will be no links with market, and you won't have any credit insurance facilities. But before we can go over there, the farmers themselves are doing something. They are making farmer groups, and they're coming together so that they can collectively face upon problems. So we decided to support this movement, because this was the idea which was told to us directly by Sayadri Farms, that this is where you can actually provide some value. So how do we actually support a farmer group, a farmer producer company, is a new type of company formation, which is hardly a decade old, and it is on lines with the cooperative and NGO, the private limited, and so on. It's a farmer producer company is a new type of entity in which only farmer can be the shareholders. It's for profit, and you can't have non-farmer shareholders. It's specifically designed to address the problem of small and holding farmers so that they can come together. Now, if they are coming together, they will have problem of spillage and spoilage of food. Maybe we can help them in tracking. If the farmers have smartphones, and today most of them do, at least one smartphone in the family, then we can provide them with two-way transparency of what is happening with their produce. And maybe in the long run, we can have an aggregate of this data to create something akin to a CIBIL score, because most of the informal sector in India do not have their own credit scores. So that was another idea that we decided to work upon. Then while we actually began, this three-step program came much later actually. Initially, it was just about figuring out one farmer collective, India's largest farmer collective, building a blockchain platform for them, whose purpose is to connect farmers with the consumers, but not directly. The platform would onboard a farmer group and any endpoint. It could be a retail or a delivery app. And then we end up either creating modules for digitalizing the processes of the value chain, or we do integration with already digitalized processes. For example, it could be a storage unit, wholesale and exports. And the beauty of having an entire supply chain on a single view is that then you can start providing many services on top of it. And that is when we decided to have this entire, so this is the current business model. We decided that blockchain is not the main selling point. It's a selling point in terms of investors and grants and competitions, but on ground usability is there because we have created modules which are being used on a daily basis, like farmer database, inventory management, SKU trackers, and so on. All of them are linked with blockchain in the backend, but they have a use in which they are getting, you could say, leveraged on a daily basis. So just a current set of our clients, the different major crops and verticals that we are working in.
We can't hear you, sir.
Am I audible? Because I think
No, ma'am, he's audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay. Okay. So
Sir, you're on mute.
am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Ma'am, I'm audible to others. Ma'am, can you hear me? Can you hear me now, ma'am? Can anyone please reach out to ma'am?
Sir, you're on mute. We're not able to hear what you're saying.
Can others please again confirm if they can hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. I think some problem at madam's end there.
Can someone please inform ma'am?
Anyone from the college, please help.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we can, I'll just type in the chat.
So we're not able to hear what you're saying.
Can others see the chat also? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, if someone can just inform ma'am so that I can continue. Okay, I'll continue then. If maybe someone can drop a personal message, that will help. Yes, so it began primarily. So what does it actually take? I'm just talking, sorry, I again kind of drifted into a kind of a pitch deck mode, and I don't want to make it sound like that. How did it actually happen? That is the more important part. What is it that you don't see over here? What you don't see over here is primarily this. Before I talk about the solution, okay, I'll just briefly again talk about it. So what it is that we do, we've printed more than 52 million QR codes already on fruits and vegetable. So after this project, we decided that more than fruits and vegetable, it is better if you go to the cotton part. So these QR codes, if you scan them, you can see the complete information regarding who's the farmer, where the food is coming from, And if you're buying something for 100 rupees, out of those 100 rupees, how much the farmer is actually getting, because we have done integrations with the payment systems also. And we realized that the real value of this could also be replicated more in, let's say, cotton to t-shirts and not just food products. So during the entire lockdown, we mapped the entire cotton value chain on ground. So during the lockdown, hardly I was home in 2020. We helped the formation, assisted in the formation of a farmer producer company in my hometown. 137 farmers primarily began. Then we tracked the entire cotton's journey of 180 tons of cotton. And we were already talking with ginning, spinning, knitting, dyeing fabric partners who were like-minded and were ready to give their information and use the digital modules wherever necessary. And then a final t-shirt sewing facility, or you could say QR code printing facility, was set up under Sayadri Farms initiative called SFSGIL, headed by Mr. Abasab Kale again. Over there, this is my team. So for 2.5 years, we were not, although we had an office back in IIT Bombay, at where we are incubated, but most of our time was spent at the fields, at the client location. It's around 40 kilometers outside Nashik at Mohadi. And we decided that, so today something very cool that is happening right now is work from home. I think work from home is a luxury for very, very, very large companies. But for us, it was the opposite. We were not just working on site, but we were also living together. We were working from the same flat also. In fact, the same situation is continued right now when we have shifted our base to CBD Belapur. In Nashik, it was 7, 8 people of us living in the same flat, the girls in the adjacent flat, just so that we can also work and constantly brainstorm. And when we moved to CBD Belapur, where we got a new office, just besides the office, again, we took 2 flats where we can actually be there together. Some of the people, because of some constraints, a couple of them have to work from home. But then that was what it took, like cooking together, living together, constant discussions. There are fights, debates, arguments, so many iterations which happen. But that is actually what ensured it happens. So this is a team on ground over there. Then we also built a module, as I said, for credit tracking, but I don't want to make it a pitch deck. I want to focus more upon the startup and innovation part of it. A larger term idea where blockchain can really be helpful and not just for traceability and simple purposes is that this idea again belongs to primarily Dr. Varghese Kurian, who began it via Amul and followed up by the likes of Mr. Vilas Shinde sir. The idea is, let's say there is a farmer collective. A farmer collective is built upon geographical limitation only. It has different crop farmers. Let us say this farmer collective has 5,000 cotton farmers, 200 silk farmers, 700 mango farmers. Similarly, there will be another farmer collective and so on. Now let's talk about an entire region. The future idea on which we are only doing the building steps and nowhere near close to it, but that is the vision, is can we connect the same crop farmers across different collectives on a virtual platform? So we'd have a cotton blockchain, silk blockchain, mango blockchain, so that the idea that farmers should work together is just extrapolated. We are not inventing something new. We are just extrapolating something which we can see already works, that farmers, if they're working together, it actually is most profitable. Why do we need to do this? Is because the value chain, which is like a seesaw tilted towards the retailer, can actually hopefully be balanced if we do this. So this is a larger idea we are doing. Some of the impact that were created, trying to create over the farmer part. But again, the other side of it, which is not visible through pitch decks, is how much it takes. For example, a couple of the co-founders again got job offers, but then another couple of my old friends back from engineering, they decided to again join. The COVID times actually got a lot of financial strain on the startup as well. The funding also sometimes gets delayed from the investors. All of these are real-time challenges, which are the crux of most of the stories which are not seen in PPTs like this. So maybe I think we'll spend more time upon the part of discussion, and maybe you can ask for some questions over there. Just a roadmap of our accomplishments, and we also made news throughout. I'll just share it. So this is the news that we made during the lockdown time, and just around after that. And even right now, again, it's not as if we have figured out what to do, because we realize that farmer producer companies in India are not more than 10,000 or around 10,000 plus something. But most of them are on paper for subsidies. The real farmer producer companies will take a lot of time to reach a scale like Sayadri. So what do? Then we did took a conscious call and we decided to explore blockchain technology. So we began as an agri-tech company which uses blockchain. And then we realized that agri-tech is something that we can continue, but there will be still a lot of bandwidth left, and blockchain will grow at a much faster pace. So we need to be in touch with the technology also. So then we moved to Mumbai, and we made a very conscious and very, you could say, complex, difficult decision that along with continuing agriculture, we will also explore other supply chains. So now, right now, we are trying to figure out how we can digitize the plastic recycling, right from the rack pickers or the reclaimers, chota kata wala, bada kate wala, balers, right until the plastic recycling company and so on. Then we realized that at one point, someone asked us that can we build an entertainment Bollywood NFT marketplace for them. It was like a one-time revenue kind of thing, and the team would also get some, you could say, a refreshment in coding something new and challenging. So we also became a part of that entertainment domain where blockchain could be used. Agritech is something which happens to be the core still, but at the same time, we are again exploring other avenues to figure out what is the right revenue stretch. And now I'm sharing these things which you usually I wouldn't share with, let's say, if this was an investor meeting or anything else. But yes, these are the other considerations which actually go into the entire thing. So that's where we stand today, and it's not an easy journey in any remote sense at all. And in order to actually kind of do this and ensure that this actually takes up, I also started writing in newspaper Indian Express. The Marathi version of it is Lok Satta. So for entire 2020, I wrote around 56, 52 articles over there, but I decided to compile it into a book, and then that book was just launched last month. Its 3 editions are already sold. The entire book is primarily in Marathi, and it explains blockchain right from the history of money from 14th century onwards till the different use cases. Because I want everyone to read it, because it is the domain experts who will understand the use case more, and then again they reach out to us. So even that is in a way a business development activity which needs to be undertaken. Similarly, the team, I have such a proactive team. They keep on constantly looking for grants, competitions, or whether there are any meetups for developers happening in place, whether there are any interesting collaborations that could happen. All of that has to be happen in such a tandem. So it is such a massive difference when it comes to working in a specific role at an established company as opposed to working in a startup. There are the pros and cons are not at all you could say crystal clear. But one thing for sure over here is that the romanticization of the struggle is easy to do when you're conducting lectures like this, but it actually takes quite a lot of physical and mental toll on you also as a team, as a co-founder, with the worries about the payments and everything. So both sides are always there whenever startups and innovations are coming to the picture. So yeah, I think I could just answer any questions that you would have. Yeah, and make it more. Yeah, we can type in, or even speak up.
Yeah, students, do you have any questions? We'll wait for 5 more minutes. I have a few questions lined up, but let me see if students want to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, as you told that the DBT scheme, that is direct benefit transfer to all the stakeholders in India, but still there are many farmers or many beneficiaries who didn't get on time, or they have issues on getting that payments from government. So how the blockchain can help in mass scale, like you did it in Chhattisgarh, but how it can be done on the large scale or pan India level, that it can help all the stakeholders.
So the Indian government actually trying to do something. There are three important documents for this. In 2018, Niti Aayog came up with a blockchain strategy paper, which was just about how we can think on it. Then something much more solid happened through Tamil Nadu, in October 2020 when the Tamil Nadu, through the chief minister, came up with a statewide blockchain policy. And in February of this year, the mighty Ministry of Electronics and IT, central government, came up with a national strategy on blockchain in which they are envisioning how these things could be scaled up directly. So primarily it involves everything from upskilling of people right until having center of excellences till encouraging industries for adoption. So that is something that will happen, but will take time. At the same time, you have to take it with a pinch of salt because it's not a magic wand that will solve problems, because the willpower is what matters the most. For example, I'll just frankly talk about this one. Can you see that? Just a second. The trace over here. Now within this trace, if we are able to show that out of 100 rupees, 41 rupees is going to the farmer, that is a question of willpower. 99% it is the willpower of the people that yes, they don't want to go with the NDA route. This is the opposite of the NDA route. Non-disclosure agreement का exact opposite है ये. It is possible without technology also to do it, but the willpower is what is mostly missing. So when it comes to big organizations and states and technology monopolies, the last obstacle is actually the technology. In fact, I usually begin the blockchain lecture with the 6 laws of technology. The one of the laws of technology was that it is the non-technical factors which govern the future of technology, not the technical aspects at all. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
I had a question.
Yes.
I wanted to understand one thing was that since we are looking at the compliance and the legality aspects which are involved with blockchain technology, I was wondering, except the agriculture application of it, do you think, just your views on whether we could actually commercialize those in different applications also? Though people have been talking about it, but application side people still have certain reservations. So what do you think about it? I mean,
Yes.
maybe your
So
views on
that
that.
is a discussion we had directly with the finance minister at the post-budget session. It lasted for over 2 hours. But the thing is, RBI has been very much clear in a 2018 circular. They had explicitly said that blockchain as a non-tokenized entity can be used and should be used all over. As for
Correct.
example, in agriculture, the finance minister herself is kind of pushing for blockchain in a very heavy manner. The only aspect of it which is vague or comes under regulatory gray areas is the crypto part of it. Now, just to do a comparison, if internet is like blockchain, then Facebook is like crypto. One website can be, of course, banned and it could be bad, but that doesn't mean the internet is bad. So RBI, for example, is now teaming up with IBM and Microsoft to use blockchain for interbank settlement in real time. Usually interbank settlements happen at night at I don't know whether for 24 or 48-hour cycle, but that could be made in real time. For example, the World Food Program had used blockchain for food delivery to bypass the transaction costs of Mastercard, and they ended up saving $1.5 million every month while they were giving food and benefits to the refugees, and they got a Nobel Prize for it also. So, Indian School of Hyderabad, ISB over there, Mr. Professor Bhagwan Chaudhary, he is implementing blockchain for your MBA certificates so that every certificate comes up with a QR code. And just if the students' college certificates need to be verified, you can just scan the QR code and see whether it is also getting reflected into the blockchain database so that there is no forgery between the students. And these kind of use cases are quite a lot in which blockchain's use is encouraged. Usually what will happen is it's like a dot-com bubble. When the dot-com bubble fell, it was, I think, valued in close to $1 trillion. Even the good use cases take a hit. And when the good use cases take a hit, but still there are some strong ones standing, and that is how you get Rediff, Hotmail, Amazon, Google, and so on. So that is the same case which will happen over here. That out of the 4, 5, 6,000 cryptocurrencies, 99% of them are just fad and useless. And of course, that bubble is going to burst. But even that bubble is a separate entity altogether from the technology itself and its applications in, let's say, e-governance, in which, for example, there is no token at all. Over there, the technology, so blockchain is like a hotel menu card. It has, let's say, 16 different properties. A certain unique combination of those properties will give you crypto. A certain unique combination of those properties will give you blockchain for land records, and so on. So it's an abstract concept in the sense that it could be customized to any varying level of degrees depending upon where it can provide a value. And in some cases, that value is not even needed. For example, an internal ERP software, why would it need blockchain? Because there is no issue of trust in an internal resource planning, for example. So that's where the blockchain stands today, is where there is an aggressive piloting in the non-crypto use cases, and even within the tokenized crypto use cases, there is a bifurcation regarding which tokens actually have utility and which tokens are there only as a MLM fraud Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, when we talk about maybe, we're keeping all these means of computing, I think one of the best methods could be recording these through a blockchain. I mean, so is
Yes.
there a future kind of a thing which you think everybody is talking about future, right? So do you think there could be any technology which would possibly replace blockchain? I know too futuristic, but
Yeah.
could we have something you think would be there?
So, within my book, I dedicate an entire chapter to it. What blockchain has done, it is that it has opened up possibilities that there could be an Uber company without Uber. So you could have an open source cab delivery platform in which out of your 200 rupees, 100 rupees are not going to any Uber because there is no aggregator in place. You could have your Oyo, Ola, Uber without Oyo, Ola, Uber. You could have a social media platform like Facebook without Mark Zuckerberg. So, and these are the pilots which are already succeeding. Sorry. For example, uh, one of the way to describe blockchain technology other than the crypto is by this person called Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum. I recall the exact quote, but what he says is, I'll paraphrase. He says that every technology which has come until today is there to replace the lowermost worker. You bring in assembly line, which Henry Ford introduced, then manufacturer workers lose their jobs. You bring in driverless vehicles, drivers will lose their jobs. And it's good because it brings in efficiency and those people can work in someplace else much better. Blockchain is here to make the CEOs jobless because the aggregator companies who are not providing any other value other than just connecting people. For example, Spotify, iTunes, why are they collecting all of the IP revenue of the artists? So artists are already migrating upon blockchain based internet, which is fancily called Web3, so that there is a seamless connection between the content provider and whoever is consuming the content. Now, these are ideas. These are an idea. It's a philosophy that something of this could be possible. If blockchain is superseded by something else, by something better, or blockchain fails entirely to rise up to these promises, it doesn't even matter because what should matter more is that the philosophy which has been opened up by this technology should be eternal. That is what should continue because there are very few technologies which will open up avenues of this kind of philosophies. The last time we had this level of paradigm shift was when internet came into the picture, and we realized that globalization could become personal in nature and not just B2B or G2G, government to government, but even person to person globalization could be possible because of internet. So that was something simply not possible before in the history of humanity. Similarly, blockchain has just opened up the possibility that wait, all of these aggregator companies, all of this bypassing, all of these middlemen, all of the issues of trust and transparency, that is something technology can take up a burden of solving. So why not focus over there? So the focus is always upon the philosophy of where what is actually needed. If there's another word, there's blockchain 2.0 or something even altogether different, more than welcome. But it is the philosophy which should stand true. Yeah,
Yeah, so maybe you're trying to say is that possibly they could have an alternative data structure. I don't know. I mean,
absolutely,
just a thought while I was
absolutely, absolutely.
thinking about what you were mentioning. I said, I don't know, but you could always have an alternative data structure. And in the same manner, we could have something with a distributor. Like, ho sakta hai, I mean,
Yes,
just a
yes.
thought. Yeah, thank you so much, Gaurav. Thank you, man. This is an actual eye opener because I think it's very important for all of us to think that there is always an element of creative destruction to take things forward and
Yeah.
empowering people to do what they want to do. Yes, questions and any of the other participants, if you have any questions, Please feel free to ask.
Hello, sir. So right now, the most of the developed countries are adopting the cryptocurrency, and the working of the cryptocurrency is based on the blockchain. So the world economy is moving towards the agile economy or a fragile economy.
That's a good question. What gets fragile because of adoption of crypto is not the economy as much as it is the governments, because their primary source of revenue is taxes, and you can bypass it if crypto adoption is there. Then, for example, a country like Malta, what they did, they said full open to crypto and blockchain, and instead of focusing upon direct taxes, they will just ensure that there's enough prosperity because of the innovation, and they will just focus on the indirect taxes. So some countries have that approach. Some countries like China, as where they will encourage Bitcoin trading or Bitcoin mining, but not Bitcoin as a competition to their original currency. Same like India, for example, but over here we are talking about taxation to such a level that it already acts like a disincentive to go over there. So, in fact, there's a beautiful book by the IRS officer, Mrs. Rachna Singh, called The Bitcoin Saga. And she talks about blockchain in a as a point of view of a bureaucrat. She says that politics will determine the fate of Bitcoin in India, nothing else. So, yes, that's the one part. Regarding adoption of crypto is just a form of payment. The where blockchain is supposed to change things is the move towards a Web3. A Web3 approach is where if you are writing good posts on social media, then instead of Mark Zuckerberg getting the payment from advertisement companies, it is you who should be getting paid by the advertising companies because you are the content creator. YouTube is somewhere in middle, but not completely, you could say, fair revenue model. So we will see a definite shift in the revenue models. For example, TikTok. People make content, people consume content, but the TikTok company gets all the money. Content creators don't get anything. So the shifting of the revenue models is much more important, and I think that is a much long-awaited destiny, because the tech monopolies, like we fancily called FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, add Microsoft to that, they have a disproportionate control over the data, over the resources, over the decisions. That if that has to be challenged, then governments, politics, democracy are powerless in front of it. You need to battle that with technology itself. So that is a much more interesting prospect of blockchain adoption that I see.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Anybody?
So not a question, but it was very good to talking with you, because we have a person who has achieved and done so much things in real life. We can see him. It was very good. So it might, you might be not knowing that from here 4 to 5 students are from Nashik only, and we know how Sahyadri Farms is and how good it is. So we would like to definitely work with you, sir. How you did this and to know more about you. So we'd definitely like to work with you, sir. So that's what I want to thank.
I'll just post the email ID, the website, and my WhatsApp number in the chat.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much, because we are looking forward for interventions of this stature coming from startups, so that our students would actually get an opportunity to work and see the kind of work goes in creating what people like Gaurav have tried to do. So it's not like a one-day journey or a two-day journey. It's a path in itself and a journey which has been created with so many aspects taken into consideration. And thank you so much, Gaurav, for having spared your valuable time. Yes, Chetashri, over to you, dear. In case, is there anybody else, any questions that you have?
Hmm.
Last, possibly not the least, actually. I just had a very basic question, Gaurav. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. What happens is, as see, you have also come from an MBA kind of a setup where there are certain dimensions which are so clearly defined in your mind of what you want to do. And how many years did it really take for you to actually have a transition from a mindset where you said you would be working and then taking up this as an individual thought of pursuing something which you have, gained experience, and you thought that that makes sense and that really is something which you want to pursue. So what was that career dilemma thing which you overcame, and then you decided, okay, now fair enough, I'm going to really focus on something that I have started. So I think this would be one area I would definitely want you to talk
Yeah.
and speak to our students, because there comes a time, we do have a lot of discussions with students. There comes a time where there is a middle ground that they need to take, maybe not so early, not in the first years, maybe, because what we have is a first year and a few second year students. But what is this, the breathing period that they can look at, and on what basis is that they can pursue what they think they can add value to?
So I think in a setup like India, your beginning point is most of the time defined by your backgrounds. For example, there are expectations of earning a job and a salary right away. So even though there could be an innovative idea, the zest and the zeal for it, but some pressures actually, uh, it could be even the EMIs, for example, just in case, which actually ensure that the full-fledged exploration of the human personality doesn't happen that easily. And even when it does, if there's a chance, the doubts and anxieties are always there. So regarding the first question regarding how many years it takes, I would say it's a work in progress. And if I have that clarity, I'll let you know that now I have that clarity, because even for me, it is a constant learning experience, because out of, let's say, 50 meetings, 10 meetings are fruitful, 5 will turn into a pilot, only one will go to a paid project, and so on. That
So
takes
how
a.
many years is what, which
So
you
this is
feel
like my
has?
10th year right now, of doing NGOs, two startups, and the corporate
Okay.
job.
So you were working in corporates for like what, for 5 years
Corporate for
before you
3 years,
plunged in?
3 to 4 years.
3. Okay. But
And
you had this on back of your mind of pursuing something like
that was
this.
always there. That was always there. That
Okay.
if certain problem solving approach could be there and like-minded people could come together, basically a setting in which work should not feel like work. Because if you're going
Yeah.
to work right until our death, then why not actually figure it out when your age, your health, and everything is actually at a peak. So that was a simplistic understanding of it, and
Okay.
to just give it a shot, because to give it shot at it at later stages, I felt it's difficult for me. Statistically speaking, though, startups which are the most success rate are with those which happen later in the career after 40. So although that is the
Yeah.
statistic, but we have to understand our own personal limitations. In case, in my case, I had support of my parents, which I will say is a very privileged thing to say in India, because you won't easily get that in most other places. So yeah, those are the background factors, and where you actually are, or even the situation like a recession or a COVID. So many other external factors actually hamper it. The only thing is, if there is a wish or a motivation in place, to just keep the flame burning for the time being, because the worst part is to have it extinguished. So even if it is burning for a while, you don't know when the chance for it to blossom would come. So that faith has to be there. It is run more by faith than insights.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. I think that was very well said. Anything, any questions coming up from students? Okay. So I guess there are no questions further, Gaurav. Let me just check. Let me just check on the chat box. And Rajesh sir is also here.
Thanks to Rajesh sir also for connecting.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I'm just going to propose the vote of thanks. So definitely, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Rajesh sir as well. So just give me 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. Till the time, students, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
And I will be available offline also. I've shared the contact details.
Thank you so much. Give me a minute, sir. Give me a minute. Uh, I guess there are no questions coming across. So, yeah, I was just checking on that. But let me just check if there's anything on the group, my WhatsApp group. No, nothing. Yes, I'll just propose the vote of thanks and thank you so much, Gaurav, for having spared your
Yeah, ma'am.
valuable time. Yes.
Ma'am, there was a question regarding the blockchain, ma'am.
Acha, there is a question. Who has asked a question? Let me check that. Is it a chat box?
No, ma'am, it's open. Uh,
Acha, open sir. Chille, pucho.
Ma'am, the
Yes.
question is, ma'am,
Last
right now
question.
in blockchain, when we are using a cryptocurrency, so whatever the transactions are happening, they are getting saved in that blockchain. So is it same thing happening with the banking transaction?
With the banking transactions, there is no crypto part at all. They are just ensuring
No,
that
sir. The
settlements are
blockchain,
recorded.
the background of the transaction that are happening. So the blockchain technology is used there. So whatever transaction history is there, so is it getting saved in that?
Yes. There's a separate private permission blockchain they have for it, in which they save the hashes of the critical data. If you ping me, I'll just share a document regarding how the banks do it.
And so whether there are any certification courses that are finance, as an MBA finance graduate, shall I do so that I can be a part of it?
IBM has a free course, so you can just search for IBM free blockchain development, blockchain foundation course. That's a
Okay,
good
sir.
point to begin. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes, Chitashri, you're going to.
Thank you so much, sir, for making this session informative and interactive. Now, I would like to request the convener of EDSR cell, Dr. Shilpa Kankonkar ma'am, to propose the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chitashri, and thank you so much, Gaurav sir, for having spared your valuable time and making yourself available in spite of so much of good work that you have been doing for such a long time. And having said this, this has been an eye opener, especially application of blockchain in the agriculture and agricultural technologies. So I think at that, giving that angle, and what I really appreciated was the way because I was very clear that I wanted to get the element of startup and innovation, and that is the reason the topic was startup and innovation. And of course, keeping in mind what you really do with respect to the application side of it. And thank you so much. And on behalf of Neville Wadia Institute of Management Studies, also I would like to express my gratitude to you also, and of course our director sir, Dr. Anand Dadas. He is going to join us in maybe 5 more minutes. So I would request you to be there, and let me just check on him and then come back to you. And I think so we would require your presence for maybe just 5-10 minutes. And is Rajesh Zavre sir on board? Has he come? Let me just check. Give me a minute. Yeah, he was here 5 minutes back. Let me just check with him, sir. And on that note, thank you so much. But I would just require your presence for maybe 5 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just be
Yeah,
on.
yeah. So students, you can take this as an opportunity to interact with sir. Give me 5 minutes.
Actually, I kind of have another hard stop at 4:30. Client call at 4:30.
Acha, you have a client call. All
Yeah.
right. Then I think we can sign off. And the students who are there, we could open the cameras. We'll take a photograph with sir and take a screenshot. Chetashri, I would request you to take the screenshot. Yeah, done. Maybe you could have somebody else also taking a screenshot. Shreyas, maybe. All right. I think it's done. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gaurav. We'll just
Thank you.
wait for sir to join us. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, please share the screenshot with me as well. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.